One of his workmen went insane and tried to kill him. Even the accidental death of the local butcher was accredited to Crowley, having put a curse on him. However, a few weeks into the operation, something was bothering Crowley. He had been informed by Florence Farr that his request for admission to the Second Order was not going to be accepted. He immediately left Boleskine for Paris to visit and confront Mathers once again.
Brother Perdurabo arrived at my apartment in full Highland dress. Things were not going well with the order back in London. There was unrest. And I was aware that my authority was being questioned by Yates and Florence Farr. I needed an ally, and Crowley was the ideal choice. I also needed his money, which he offered to put unconditionally at my disposal, if I granted him access to the Second Order. I carried out the initiation to the next grade myself. Alister became, much to his delight, a full Adeptus Minor.
I went straight to the headquarters of the Second Order at number 36 Blythe Road to collect my documents for my new grade. But to my astonishment, they refused to give them to me, on the grounds that they did not accept Mather's initiation. There was mutiny in the camp. So, Mathers and I hatched a rather grand plan to seize back control. I would gain access to the rooms by persuading the landlord that I, the Laird of Boleskine, had the authority to enter, then simply change the locks. As the other members arrived, they would have to swear allegiance or be downgraded to the outer order. So, after watching the premises for a couple of days, my mistress at the time, Elaine Simpson, and I carried out the plan. It all went rather well. We arrived and simply took possession. Over the next few days, there were some comings and goings, other members demanding that we leave, including Yates. But I stood firm. That was until a constable arrived and we were ejected by the long arm of the law. My time with the Golden Dawn was over. And by all accounts, so was the Golden Dawn. I had heard that Mexico was an interesting place. So I packed a bag and set off for Mexico City.
Arriving alone, the impulsive Crowley rented a house in the center of the city overlooking the park and promptly found himself a young Indian girl to take care of his needs.
I felt the need to get straight back into my magic, so I chose to experiment with making myself invisible by invoking the great god of silence, Harpocrates. By the great god Harpocrates, by your deep purple darkness, by my white and brilliant light do I conjure thee. Collect yourself about me. Clothe this astral form with a shroud of darkness. And so on. After a few weeks, it started to work. My reflection in the mirror grew weaker until one day I went out into the streets dressed in a scarlet cloak and a golden crown upon my head. I was invisible to all those that passed me by.
In his biography of Alister Crowley, author John Simmons noted that at this stage in Crowley's life, three aspects of his psychology had become clear. One, he had no inhibitions whatsoever, throwing himself into any adventure that touched his fancy. The more horrible, the better. And he was not afraid of madness. Secondly, he needed some strong or horrific experience to be aroused. He would sleep with wrinkled and ugly whores for stimulation to write his poetry. And thirdly, he had no respect for his own or anyone else's body.